What is the Human Rights Commission's view on food being sent down underground in Stilfontein versus the view of the police, which I've just painted?
Well, the first thing that the commission's view is that we need to get those miners out of there, illegal or whatever. We need to get them out there, and they too, and therefore the community, local communities that has been engaged with by a number of NGOs have been engaging them and saying, and we are urging them, that those communities that are working with those miners down there, to say, please come up. And obviously, we're also looking at the way that the authorities must have a plan. And the court ruling of Friday was to say, how do we put in place a management? Now, we haven't seen the whole ruling. We need to study it and go into our investigation to say, how do we have a plan to get those people out of there? And we've always been saying, once they're out there, let the law take its course. Let SAHRCs take its course. But however, we also say at the same time that whilst we're urging those miners to come out, and while we're working with NGOs to say, let them come out, it's important also that the law must take its course, but at the same time, there is a humanitarian crisis. Yeah. We cannot run away from the fact that there is a humanitarian crisis, and how do we deal with that humanitarian crisis? And therefore, we urge those institutions that are dealing with it to say that whilst there is negotiation or mediation, whatever, we cannot starve people to death.
Let me let on to one of the elements that you've spoken about, and I want to talk about the so-called kingpins underground. So earlier, I spoke to you about a video of the miners turning on the others, essentially meting out the worst punishment. I think they were being beaten with a shambok. And I want to ask you the question, who is to hold the kingpins accountable underground, the ones who are assaulting others? Because in all probability, these people that are being assaulted are possibly also even being held against their will. Who is to hold these so-called kingpins accountable?
Well, you're asking a very, very important question. And the answer is simple. Once they come out, they must be arrested. They must be arrested. They must be held accountable. And also communities and NGOs that are working there must also condemn this. If it's true, I said to you, we must verify it. If it's true, then they must be held accountable. And we've always said the law must take its course, but they must come out. They must come out and let the law take its course. And those who inflicted further torture or beatings or assaults on these people, if the video clips are true and it can be verified, then those identified must face the full might of the law.
Can I tell you what reports I have seen in the recent past have said about the very 1,500 that have come out to the surface and were processed and taken through the court action? My understanding, and of course I am subject to correction, is that they receive suspended sentences and they walk off, possibly deported to their countries of origin. Is that accountability to your mind?
Well, it is. We can't decide we can't go against the courts. If that is the presiding officer that decided that is the best way for those who have been given suspended sentences and been taken to the country of origin, instead of sitting in South African jails and having to be paid by the taxpayer, perhaps that is something that it was the presiding officer's decision to do that. It is, in my view, an informal accountability if that happened the way you've described it. But certainly, we cannot allow the issue of illegal mining in our country. Hence, the Commission, long before my time, under the leadership of Commissioner Janet Love, have brought out a report in 2015 on artisanal mining. But at the same time, we've also warned and we've also asked, and we've requested a meeting, and in the process of requesting a meeting with ministers, both of police and of the mineral energy, to say, you know, why are we not also holding those mine bosses or companies accountable for not rehabilitation and not securing those areas so that nobody comes back?
Yeah.
But in answering your question, we need to look at that and say, how is the accountability? Do we want a harsher sentence? Unfortunately, that is the jurisdiction of the courts of our country.
Yeah. Final question to you, sir, and very briefly, if you can. Makua, this is the Mining Affected Communities United in Action. They are using very strong language tonight. They're saying the state has either committed genocide or what was committed in Marikana, a massacre. And they are saying this is evidenced through the bodies that have been pulled thus far. It's about 10 or 11 of the bodies. And they're saying postmortems are clear that these people died of starvation. Now, the reason they are using these two words that are quite strong, genocide or a massacre, is that there is possibly over 100 that are dead underground as we speak. And they are of the view that the government of the day must be held responsible for that. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I respect the views of the community. And we've always worked with the community and will always continue to work with the communities and NGOs. We need to verify a number of issues. Like, for example, I've heard it's 9 people that has come, but I will not dispute the number of people that surfaced that were dead. We have also heard horrible stories about how many people in shaft 11, shaft 10, shaft 11, how many people are there that are really in a very, very bad state because of not enough food getting there or water even getting there. So we are, and also hearing people that falling down some shafts and so 1.6 kilometers, etc. and so on. So we've heard it. It's our investigation. We are investigating that and we want to know what has happened. Our sympathy is with the South African community in saying, you know, we have people down there. How do we get them out? But we also have to understand and make sure that the authorities do what is right in order to extract those bodies or extract those people, evacuate them, bring them to the surface, let the law take its course. But at the same time, we are saying we cannot deny people because that is the right.
Yeah.
I've started off by saying we condemn criminality, but I will say it's a right for those in such situations not to be denied, food and water. But what we want to do, what we want to have, is that the committee that the minister put together, that committee act and work together so that we find an evacuation program that people can come out so that we don't find bodies and dead people down there.
Chris Nissen, Chairperson of the South African Human Rights Commission, thank you very much for your time.